COP28 in the Arab Emirates moved towards final resolutions, and the parties' negotiators discussed the balance of commitment made to mitigate and adapt to climate change. From Dubai, our team brings us the details.
Countries of capitalism do not provide sufficient resources for the transition or reparation, and the developing countries insist that they depend on hydrocarbons for their development.
The reality is that the most visionary results are the only way for all governments to come out of Dubai with a victory under their belt. One thing is certain: I win, you lose is a recipe for collective failure. Ultimately, it is the security of 8 billion people that is at stake.
Negotiators discuss whether the way forward is to abandon fossil fuels as soon as possible or to reduce consumption. The Global South is demanding that the North finance the transition and pay for the impacts it suffers from the global warming caused by the rich countries. There is talk of common but differentiated responsibilities.
It is justice. They have to pay what they owe in the end. So we ask that the countries of the global north, which are the biggest producers, stop emissions now and can lead this process by putting money so that the countries of the global south can start this transition more slowly, because it would take longer, because we don't have the resources to do it.
In the United States, the country that emits the most greenhouse gases, the government of Joe Biden is trying in Congress to send $60 billion in military resources to Ukraine and $10 billion to Israel, and the COP is denouncing its lack of contributions to the fight against climate change.
The responsibility has been there since we have
practically colonized all the lands everywhere and extract all these resources. This conference was historic because we had the loss and damage fund actually passed, and many of the countries in the global north promised millions and millions of dollars. But when you think about financing just a global transition, that's throwing pennies into a piggy bank. That's just not going to do any good. We need about $100 billion to finance this global transition, and the United States only promised about $17.5 million, compared to other countries in the global north that have pledged $100 million.
The impacts of pollution are not only affecting the atmosphere. The U.S. oil companies ExxonMobil and Shell are among the main responsible for the destruction of the Niger River in the rural village where Friday Nabani lives in Nigeria.
We demand that this conference provide funding for adaptation. We demand that the form of loss and damage be higher, not just the billion that the millionaires are talking about. We expect that around $400 billion can be allocated to all the vulnerable community who have been impacted by climate change, who live in floods, who live in disasters, who have become climate refugees on their own land.
The new feature of COP28 was the multipolarity and the weight of the Global South in achieving the approval of the Loss and Damage Fund through the G77 plus China bloc.
The most important thing, in my opinion, is the political recognition that losses and damages exist and require financing, because for many years, although it seems incredible now, this was discussed. Developed countries say that this was adaptation and it was covered by adaptation. In other words, they did not give it a personality of its own. That's the glass half full. The glass half empty is that in reality, the needs for financing the losses and damages are in the order of billions for the countries that suffer.
For the moment, there is no solution in sight. Everyone knows that the critical barrier of a 1.5 degrees increase in temperature will be surpassed. The planet is already 1.3 degrees above pre-industrial levels, and according to the United Nations, the probability of achieving the objective is reduced to 14%.
Ignacio Lemus y Julia Nassif para Telesur.